This is just pretty much a quick preview of what I'm going to talk about. Just a lot of topics that have normally come up for people trying to improve or just working on their mentality in general. I kind of have probably a few too many slides, so I'm going to try and go through it quickly. Don't worry about missing anything. It'll all be online later and stuff like that. So here we go. The first thing is how to improve and how to think about your game outside of the game itself. And the first thing is obviously going to tournaments. They did a study which it basically was telling people that taking mock practice tests actually helped people do better on the test than studying individually, even when they studied for more time than it took to take the practice test. So the bottom line is, when you go to tournaments, these matches are etched into your brain, and you'll remember them way better, and yeah. Okay. I don't have the pictures up. I guess they didn't download it along with everything else. But anyway, go to tournaments. All the people are resources. Top players, practice partners. You can find all the people who live near you and practice with them. Finding new styles and matchups. This is all going to help the most. More than staying at home and all that stuff. Okay, some pictures got down. Secondly, put in the time. This is usually what people hate hearing the most, is that it actually just takes so much time to get good at anything in life, not even just Melee. So I try to just start with like a simple schedule, maybe just like 30 minutes of tech skill a day, and like work your way up from there. And there's like a whole Western versus Eastern mentality also as well. We'll get to that a little bit later. But the whole thing I'll lower here is, you know, you guys have heard the 10,000 hours thing. Like it takes 10,000 hours to become a master. Well, actually, most people don't play that often. They really just play like maybe a 4-hour session. Maybe they play longer than that once a week, but there's only like 4 hours of like actual serious practice, and then they start messing around with low tiers and stuff. They go to tournaments, which admittedly you're not playing the entire time, but still 8 hours of just absorbing everything that's going on and all that stuff. That's still useful. And then maybe they, you know, have a few hours, like an hour of research maybe, which is really just browsing on Reddit, finding cool Giphy cats, which still helps. So if you did that for 52 weeks, you'd actually only have 676 hours for an entire year, which is really not a lot if you think about 10,000 hours. So if you put in just a little bit more work than that, you'll improve way faster than all these other guys. And what you want to put your time towards. You can play the game, you can practice tech skill, you can read about it online, you can watch VODs, you can watch Topo Talks, watch anyone trying to analyze stuff. And a big thing is that you can talk and think about the game on your own. So talking to other people is something that's not as used as often, and just thinking about the game. Just thinking about what usually happens in this situation, like, okay, what do I do here? Like, I keep getting hit every time, you know, I nair in this way. What can I do instead? That really goes a long, long way. As far as how to analyze things, the two things you really want to focus on are why something happened and how did it work out for them. So you ask, why did this top player use this move? You know, why did he use a weak forward air instead of where I would have normally done like a sweet spot up air or something like that? I don't know. And then you think about, how did it work out? You know, maybe it didn't work out for them. Could it have worked out better if they did it at an earlier time, or like maybe they misspaced the move? Maybe if they do it at a different spacing, that it would have worked out better for them. Just keep these questions in your mind and always ask yourself. So SSBM Tutorials' secret of the universe is that when I make videos, I inevitably have to find clips online and find examples of what I'm talking about just to illustrate them to the world. And when I'm doing that, I'm normally looking for like a very specific thing. It's like, you know, what people do. I'm looking for like a forward air out of shield from Pew Pew or something like that. Or I'm looking for Mango to just go ham in neutral, just run at them from across the stage like he always does. And when that happens, I'm not looking at the entire VOD, because it's so easy to watch like a whole VOD and actually just kind of gloss over it and not really gain as much from it. But I'm just looking for one situation, like what does PPU do every time he's in his shield? So I just look for shield only and see what he does every single time. And that actually helps me learn so much better, because you can notice patterns like, okay, he's always forward airing out of shield every time Westballs does this, or like, oh, every time Westballs lasers from this position, he forward airs out of shield, but if he's a little bit further away, maybe he wave dashes backwards, and that helps me like a lot. And the third one is character loyalty. You guys probably hear this a lot, but a lot of players in the top 100 did not get there while being an active dual mainer. And what I mean is, they may have picked up a dual main after they became top 100 or top 30 in the world, but almost all of them, probably more than 90% of them, mained only one character before they got to where they were. So, it's definitely possible. I don't want, it's definitely, you can dual main and become very, very good, but you just get good way faster by being good at one character first and then switching later. Zero had like a video on that, and pretty much I think his strategy is okay. Like, counterpicking is good if you're already at the level where your other characters can catch up more easily. During a match. Okay, so when you're in the match, I get this question all the time. People are saying, like, I can't stop autopiloting. Like, how do I think about the game? How do I think about my actions? I can't break this habit. And I'm here to tell you that, yeah, you should think about your game, of course, but it's actually fine to autopilot. And the reason is because if you're thinking about every single action that's going on in the game, you're just weighing your brain down. It has too much to think about, and it's not working at its optimal speed. The game is so fast, sometimes you don't actually have time to think about all the options. I would practice with my buddy Fiction, and he would tell me at times, like, he could actually see me thinking, which means, like, I would, like, see a situation and be like, okay, what should I do here? And then choose my option. And even though it's still happening within like half a second, I really, maybe in the game, I only have like 0.2 seconds to actually make this decision in time. So he said, even though I'm doing good things, it was taking too long for them to actually happen, and he could react in time and just do something else. So what he suggested was, instead of figuring out what to do best in that situation, you just pick something. You pick something what you think could be good, and if it doesn't work, then you adjust next time, and you just make sure that it's being done fast rather than being done as correctly as possible. And also, if you have like a bad habit and you're not fixing it, and you're like, oh man, I can't. If I could think better, like during the match, I could fix it and stuff like that. That's obviously a good skill to have. Like, if you're doing the same thing over and over again, you're not really realizing why it's happening. You do want to think about the game, but it's better to go back and prepare like your switch ahead of time. So like, say you always, like, as Falco, you do a laser and then you jump in neutral air every single time, no matter what is your approach. And they start countering that by hitting you between the laser and the neutral air. You want to have an answer to that ahead of time, and if you don't have it in the moment, it is good to think of one, but figuring out in between matches is even better because you'll be even faster at switching up on it. And the other thing is just to try and kind of relax and have fun. When you're playing friendlies in your house, you're just kind of relaxed and you just kind of want to recreate that environment as much as possible. So what you want to do is think about facts in game and not out of game. The two biggest things I try to think about are, what are they going to do next, and where are they going to go? And that's all that's going through my mind, and normally it's actually only one of them. It's not even both. It's just like, where's he going to be next? Where's he going to be next? Because if you start thinking about, like, oh, man, like, my friend's watching me, and, like, I play this matchup all the time, I should be good at it, or, like, oh, I can't lose to this guy, I don't want to lose to him, all that stuff, then it's just, it takes you out of the game, and then you start just kind of doing whatever, and you're just kind of going through the motions, so... Also, don't worry about stock counts at all. Stocks. One of my biggest pet peeves actually is commentators say this all the time. They're like, "Oh, Mewtwo King's down. He needs one of those famous 0 to death stocks." Or like, "Oh, he needs a huge gimp right now. Otherwise, like, he's not gonna come back." And that's just not necessarily true. Like, you could just slowly grind your way back through the matchup. You don't have to have a Giphy Cat every time you're down. And similarly, when you're in the lead, people are so worried about throwing it, or like, oh, if I just play safe now, I'll just slowly win. And that's not true either. Stocks disappear in such a fast instant in Melee. Just one mistake can make you lose a stock. So don't worry about stock counts too much. You just just do the best you can. We're gonna go some of this later, but basically, a lot of people are like, man, my tech skill's terrible in tournament, but in friendlies it's so good. Why is this happening? It's basically, when you play your practice partners that you play all the time, you're gonna, even subconsciously, you just kind of know what to expect. You're used to it. You're playing in the familiarity of your own home. When you play new people, you don't have those hard reads that you have on your friends. You don't know what they're going to do next. They're doing options that your practice partners have never done before. So it's just normal for your tech skill to fail as a result. I mean, obviously, you want it to be the best as possible, but it's better to know what they're going to do next and just be prepared for all the options and know what you want to do against them, rather than worrying too much about tech skill not happening. All right, being nervous. This is a big one. So the first thing you want to know is being nervous is not something where people have a problem and they can't play up to their best, and someday they'll fix it and they'll just go away and then they'll play amazing. That's not how nervousness works. It's pretty much developed as you develop your own play style. Just as you develop your own skills in the game, you develop your own mentality, and it's kind of a journey all on its own. So the first thing you want to look out for is, why do you get nervous? Try to get to the root of the problem and just really answer, like, they're almost like, I don't know, metaphysical questions about life. You know, why do I get nervous? Is it because I'm scared of what people are going to think of me? Is it because, oh man, I don't want to be wasting my time? Like, if I don't do well, like, maybe I just won't believe myself anymore. And those are pretty heavy questions, but if you can really figure those out, I think you just get more understanding of it, and you can learn to deal with it better. Hold on, is there a way to go back? There you go. Another thing is, nervousness in some ways is slightly overrated, I think, because people get nervous all the time, and like at all different skill levels. But if you played like someone who is super new at Smash, you know, like the people who like pick Kirby, they jump to the top of the screen, they down B over and over again, you know, those kind of people. If you played one of those people, it doesn't matter how nervous, you know, let's just say you guys have all been to like a lot of tournaments. If you guys have played someone like that, it doesn't matter how nervous you are. You're going to know, okay, I watch out for the down B, and then I punish afterwards. I can do this, I can do that. Eventually, you get so used to it, you know, maybe you start swagging out a bit. You're like, oh, maybe I can land a falcon punch on my friend or something like that, you know? And it just doesn't matter that you were nervous, because you're so much better than them that, you know, you couldn't have lost anyway. And I kind of think in some way, if you just get better at the game, you'll be less nervous against the people you used to be nervous against, just because it's now easier, you know? And Hungrybox has said himself, you know, just try to be the best player you can be. It's not necessarily about being the best ever. Like, don't worry about placing in the money, or like, oh, I want to get top 8, I want to make... those are good goals, but if you focus on them too hard, you kind of lose sight of just learning and figuring out the game itself as you play. Okay, talent. PPMD has said that he doesn't think talent exists, and it's kind of hard to define talent in a way, because, first of all, it can't really be quantified, maybe by how quickly you got good, but in a way, like, let's say, you know, Mango had just an affinity for learning really fast. Well, I think that the way that he looked at the game and the way that he learned quickly can be replicated, and you can learn to have that talent, quote unquote. So, other people say, like, hard work is a talent. Just being able to love putting that many hours in is a talent. But you can learn to do that too, I think. And you can pretty much learn to have all these talents and then, you know, just be talented on your own. There's this... So the whole Eastern versus Western mentality thing I talked about earlier, basically is a lot of people in America are kind of raised to believe, like, you're just intrinsically good at things. When you're born, oh, I'm good at math. Like, I was always good at math. Or, like, oh, that guy's just a talented athlete. Like, he's always just super good. And in Asia, especially, that's just not really how it works. They don't really believe that. They think that it's just how much effort and time you put into the game. Obviously, I'm a proponent of the latter. I don't think that talent really matters that much. It's way more about how many hours you put into the game. And there's this documentary on Netflix called Topspin about ping pong in China. And actually, so when you put into the ping pong program, first of all, China just wins every time. Like, every Olympics, they just win ping pong. Secondly, if you're in 6th grade, for example, and you've been playing ping pong, you'll never beat someone in 7th grade. Almost ever. Because they've all been through the same program, and they've all... If you're in 7th grade, you just have a year's worth more of hours put in. And in America, there's like some 6th graders that came over, and they were just way better than everyone else in their junior high and their high school. But in China, that actually just doesn't happen because they all put in the same amount of time. And yeah, you could argue like, well, of course they're all doing the exact same practice regimen, blah blah blah. But it's just a testament to show like just the hours put in are so much more important. How to adapt. So this is the whole myelin sheath thing. Basically, without going into too much science, cells get this blue thingy that wrap around your nerves, and the more you have of it, the faster the signal's sent through. So just by doing things over and over and over again, getting repetition, and that's another reason why time is so important, is that over time you develop more myelin sheaths, like thicker ones and whatnot, and you can just do things faster. You know, even Hungrybox says like getting rid of bad habits is like so difficult, and the game like opens up so much. Like sometimes you feel like you're not really going anywhere, but eventually things will just click, and like you feel like you're not fast enough. But if you just put in enough time, eventually you can get to that speed, and it's just all about putting in the time pretty much. As far as adapting goes, the first time you see something, you're going to be slow to adapt to it. So that's why going to tournaments is so important. Like the more you research and analyze things at home and think about it, the more used to it you'll be, the more times you'll see it, and the faster you can adapt to it. Dealing with losing. I think this is the last part. So, the first thing I want you guys to know is that losing, it actually just sucks. We all know that sucks, and especially the more you play Melee, the more it's gonna hurt because you put so much more time into it. And I just want to say that it's okay. Melee is more than like just a game. It's not just this trivial thing that just doesn't matter to you. You know, if you're putting all this time and effort, it means something to you, and you know, just that's okay. So if you feel bad after losing, don't worry about it. It happens to everybody, and it's okay. So there are 2 steps to dealing with losing. Your first option is to either quit the game and not play anymore so you don't have to lose, or you don't quit the game and you try to figure out something that can fix your problem of losing, basically. There's this thing on Smashboards, if you guys have seen it, called Smash Chains. It's very funny. You can see, like, I don't know, 20-year-old Hugo make crude jokes or whatever. It's very funny. But one of the chains he said was, the chains are like categories of players, like, stupid technical, all he does is just go in, or like, this guy's so jank, and he pretends to call it a strategy. One of the chains he named the Kira chain because it was people who spent like 2 years of just being terrible at the game until they finally bloomed and became good at the game. And, I don't know how I felt about being named that or whatever, but basically the number one guaranteed way to get good is to just not give up. And if you just keep trying over and over again, like, you will see results, you will surpass people, you'll like go back and play people who used to play and be like, wow, like, I'm actually just better than them. You wouldn't even realize it's happening, so keep going. Some people say, like, in 2016, it's a little bit too hard to learn because there's, like, so much stuff and people have been playing for years and years, and that's true. But in 2006, there were almost no tools to help you get good. There were Smashboards with, like, terms and stuff like that, but you really had nothing to practice at home. Like, you didn't have 20XX. You couldn't watch videos. We had to, like, do some weird torrent on, like, DC++, and if the other person left on the other side, you couldn't get the video from them. Like, it was very difficult. Nowadays, you have all the tools available to you, but obviously the skill level is higher. So I think it's very comparable, actually. And because there's a lot of new people, like Doc Kids or whatever, that have recently started to rise, like Captain Face Roll or Zane, it's definitely possible as long as you put in the work. And also, at first, for just putting a little bit of time in, you can get up to a pretty high skill level. Depending on your goals, I think that pretty much anyone can be ranked in their region. Obviously, it depends on the region, but that's definitely possible for anybody. And then the higher you go, sometimes you feel like you're not getting better, but you actually are. It's just that it takes so much more time for such a smaller increase in skill. And the pros aren't like insane metaphysical players, like, out of body players. They're just humans who happen to put in the time and dedication. So pretty much anyone else can do it too. It's just, it takes a lot of work. And this is the compound effect. So normally it's like a cool math problem just to explain, how things can exponentially get huge and whatnot. But if you were given a choice between having $3 million right now or 1 cent, but it gets doubled every day for 1 month, you can see the answer here already. But you would take the 1 cent doubled for each month. But the problem is that 10 days in, you're like, I only have $5. Like, this was such a bad idea. Even 20 days in, you're like, man, $5,000. Like, I could have $3 million. I could have done all these things. I could buy everything. And it's not even until the 29th day, like literally like the last 3 days, where you even get close to the same total. And basically what I'm saying here is a lot of times it feels like you're not going anywhere. Like, it feels like maybe you're not cut out for it. If you've read Daigo's book, The Will to Keep Winning, it just got translated into English. He talks about this too, where he would spend 12 hours a day at a mahjong parlor, either playing or watching like good players. And after over 2 years, he thought, man, maybe I'm only good at video games. Maybe I don't have the right mind for mahjong. Maybe I just can't be good at it. And he's like, well, let me just give it one last push. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And within the last half year, he actually became one of the best players. And everyone, like every parlor he went to, like these people were like, wow, like how did this kid get so good at mahjong? Like, why is he so insane? Like all this stuff. And sometimes, your efforts are only really seen within like the last few days. So, yeah. Basically you're still working towards your goal, even if you don't feel like it all the time, and every little bit of effort counts. So that's pretty much it. If you guys want to ask questions, we can go ahead.
All right, I think we only have time for one question. I'm so sorry, but if you have a minute and after we take our one question, want to meet some people just off to our audience's left, we can do that.
Okay.
So let me have, can you come to me just so I don't get some feedback?
Hey, my question is, so at least when I'm playing against people, there's either people who are worse than me, around the same level as me, or a lot better than me. What do you think is the best type of person to play against? Because people who are worse than me, I feel like I'm only really getting my tech practice in. Right. People who are a lot better than me, I feel like I can't even move my controller.
Yeah.
And then like people at the same level as me, I feel like I'm just like getting used to that player specifically.
Okay, so Cactuar of Smash Practice, he's said in the past that you actually need all three of those players. And actually those are the only three players, but those are the three key types of people that you want to be playing against. And when you play against worse people, the tech skill, it's obviously good to have tech skill practice, but also it's time to try new things or implement a new technique. Or even if you're just binding them like over and over, you can still find something that, like, unless you're like four-stocking them or JV5ing them like every match, there are times they are hitting you. And if you just focus on those kind of things, then you can still improve a lot at the game, even while playing them. People at your level is what most people prefer to play at, and I think that can just naturally, you just bounce off each other and keep working on stuff. And playing against better people, I think a lot of it is actually just, the repetition of being used to that speed, being used to what you have to get up to, or seeing the level that you need to reach next. A lot of times, it's just hard to keep up. You just purely try to keep up. And to play someone like way, way above your level maybe is only marginally helpful. But definitely people even slightly better than you can show you a lot of the holes that you don't have when you play other people. So pretty much all three of them, yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Give a big round of applause for Kira. That was wonderful. Thank you.